name's Alex Bell.
Hi, I'm Tavis McLennan.
And I'm Kane Haggett.
And this is our video about how to play in an ensemble.
This is an educational video that discusses and demonstrates ideas, skills and techniques to improve your ensemble playing.
We will discuss how to go from learning a piece from scratch and have it ready to play in an ensemble. We will then talk about how to start playing that piece in an ensemble and how to utilise your time and the skills of the available players.
Oh yeah. We'll be focusing on such things like breathing. We're focusing on the tuning. We're focusing on the listening. A player in the ensemble, as well as the correct and most effective way of learning a piece of music.
Yeah! For this video, we will be demonstrating our ideas with the piece Jarabe Tapatio,
Also known as
The Mexican Hat Dance.
The first time we look at a piece, we go through a bit of a checklist of things that we want to look at. For example, the first thing we'd like to look at would be the time signature. As we can see in this one, it's 6/8. And with the time signature, as with all the things in this checklist, we will look through the rest of the piece to see if we've got any changes. So if we're having a look down through the piece, we see it starts at 6/8 and then it'll move down into 3/4 down there. That's very important, making sure we see that. And then later on in the piece, it moves into 2/4 as well. Now that we've identified a time signature, we're going to have a look at a key signature. So that's also at the start of the piece. And as with the time signature, we like to check to see if it changes at all throughout the piece. And we can see down there next to the 3/4, it's changed there. And when we get to the 2/4, it changes again. The next thing we look at in our checklist is tempo marking. So we can see at the start of the piece, we've got Allegro, and it's dotted crotchet equals 132 beats per minute. We also make sure that there's no changes throughout the piece. In the case of this piece, we have a look down at the 3/4 and the tempo has changed. It's Allegretto and it's a crotchet equals 132. And moving along through the piece, when we get to the presto section, we see that, well, it's presto and that it's crotchet equals 132. Now, we keep looking through the piece and we see things like accelerando down at the very end of the piece. Now this means we've got to really speed up through the end of the piece there, but we'll get to that later. The next thing we're going to look at when learning a piece for the first time is the rhythm. A good thing for us to do is to learn the rhythm by clapping. This takes away the pressure of trying to play the correct notes and we can focus solely on just getting the rhythm right, which is very important. When we're learning the piece for the first time, we try and take the tempo nice and slow. We won't play the piece or clap the piece up to speed. So we'll have a look at the first few bars of this piece, and Alex is going to clap the rhythm while counting. As it's in 6/8, that's 6 quavers per bar, we'll count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
As this piece starts with an anacrusis of the 5/6, I'll be counting it in as 1, 2, 3, 4 before I start clapping on the 5/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
After having looked at the main melody of the piece, we go through and we try and find a hard section that we're going to struggle with. The first thing that comes to my eyes is the change from the 6/8 into the 3/4. Now we're going to try and count this in quavers to make it a lot easier for ourselves. So for the 6/8 we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But when we get into the 3/4 we won't count it 1, 2, 3 because that will be crotchets. We count it 1 and 2 and 3 and, which is 6 quavers. Alex is now going to play the first part of the piece and I will count him in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, Alex made a few mistakes in that, so a really good thing that we do when we're learning a piece of music is to get your pencil and we mark on our score any mistakes that we've made. Give it a circle or write exactly what we need to fix. That way we don't make the same mistake twice. After having practiced the piece of music slowly and then building up the speed of it, you should be able to play at speed, and that's when your piece will be almost ensemble ready. Alex is going to show us how it should sound when it's almost ensemble ready.
Having had everyone rehearse their parts individually, we're now in an ensemble setting, ready to rehearse together.
The first thing that we do is to run through the piece from start to finish, just to see how it goes.
So as you heard, our first run through was a little bit shaky. One of the key areas I noticed that needed work was tuning. So we didn't tune beforehand. One of the ways I like to tune is for the first trumpet to play a concert B flat, and for the rest of the ensemble to play one as well, and then adjust it by ear. Another way to do it is to tune with a tuner. So that way there's no discrepancies.
Now that the band's all tuned up, we can move on to the point that I made, which was the tempo. As this was a first run through, we didn't have to bring it up to tempo. We can start off rehearsing at a slower tempo and then eventually bring it up to the 132 beats per minute. One way to keep the consistency of tempo between the band would be to use a metronome when you are lacking in a conductor.
Alex has touched on a very good point there. Consistency in the ensemble. Having consistency in the ensemble is so important. When you're playing together, you want to be playing things exactly the same. You don't want one person playing one thing and then someone else playing something slightly different. It'll create a messy kind of sound. We really want to have consistency with the tempo, but we also want consistency in our expressive techniques, such as dynamics and articulation. It's really good for an ensemble to discuss how they're going to play the dynamics and articulations before we play. Learning your own part and playing in an ensemble is always important, but what makes an ensemble sound really good is when the players know everyone else's parts. This comes from listening to the other players and knowing your role in the ensemble. So it's really good to know, do I have the melody? And if you do, you need to play that out a bit more. If you're the accompaniment, you need to kind of back off a bit. And that can be with dynamics, it can be on how hard you're hitting notes, all that kind of thing. But really listening to who's leading the band at the time, that's what makes an ensemble sound really good. Having spoken with the ensemble about all the changes that we're going to make, we're now going to play it for our second time through and see how it sounds. This time we'll be using a metronome and we'll tune beforehand.
As you can hear, our ensemble is sounding a lot better. Having tuned up, used a metronome to keep a consistent tempo throughout the piece, and having addressed our expressive techniques, we are sounding 10 times better than we did in our first run through. Another point to make with breathing is breathing throughout a piece. We want the piece to be able to keep moving forward and to keep its flow, so we stagger our breathing.
Breathing together to play together improves the consistency of the ensemble. It allows and forces the band to be in sync before you even start playing.
Stagger breathing is when each member of the ensemble breathes at a different part throughout the phrase. This allows there to be a continuous sound and have the music continue to flow and move forward. There are exceptions to this rule. If there is a stop or a unison rest within the piece, that is also a very good spot for the ensemble to breathe together.